It's been over 33 years since Jurassic Park first made us afraid to look at a glass of water, and since that iconic John Williams score sent chills down our spines, and since a group of actors stepped onto a Hawaiian set and made movie history. But here's the thing. What happened to them after the gates of Jurassic Park closed? Some went on to become legends, some walked away from Hollywood entirely, and some stories will genuinely surprise you. Before we get into the cast, let's talk about the movie itself. Because Jurassic Park wasn't just a film, it was a turning point in cinema history. When Steven Spielberg adapted Michael Crichton's 1990 novel, nobody quite knew what they were about to unleash. The studio expected a fun summer blockbuster. What they got was a revolution. Jurassic Park was the first film to prove that CGI could replace practical effects at a massive scale, and it did it so convincingly that those dinosaurs still hold up today, in 2026. But here's what most people don't know. Spielberg originally planned to use mostly stop-motion animation. It was only after seeing early CGI test footage that he made the call to change everything, just 18 months before release. That gamble changed Hollywood forever, and it all started with the cast he assembled around it. If there is one face that defines Jurassic Park, it is this one. Sam Neill was 45 years old when he stepped into the boots of Dr. Alan Grant, a rugged, dinosaur-obsessed paleontologist who absolutely did not want to be on that island. And honestly, neither did Sam. Here is something most fans do not know. Sam Neill was not Spielberg's first choice for the role. William Hurt was offered Dr. Grant first and turned it down flat. Richard Dreyfuss was also considered. But when Neill walked into that audition, Spielberg knew immediately. Born in Northern Ireland but raised in New Zealand, Neill had already built a quiet but impressive career before 1993, with films like Omen 3 and The Piano under his belt. But Jurassic Park made him a household name overnight. After the film, Neill continued working steadily, appearing in everything from Event Horizon to Peaky Blinders, where his performance earned him an entirely new generation of fans. Then came something nobody expected. In 2022, Neill released a memoir called Did I Ever Tell You This? And in it, he revealed something that stunned fans worldwide. He had been diagnosed with stage 3 non-Hodgkin lymphoma. He wrote the book during his chemotherapy treatment, calmly, gracefully, and with remarkable humor. The good news, as of 2026, is that Sam Neill is in remission. Still working, still charming, still the man we would follow onto any dinosaur-filled island. His story is a powerful reminder that true grit looks nothing like the movies, and everything like the man himself. She ran from velociraptors in 1993, and she has never stopped running, straight toward every great role Hollywood had to offer. Laura Dern was just 26 years old when she played Dr. Ellie Sattler. Young, fearless, and already the daughter of two Hollywood legends, Bruce Dern and Diane Ladd. But here's what made Laura different from every other actress of her generation. She never played it safe. After Jurassic Park, she took on some of the most challenging and unconventional roles in Hollywood, from David Lynch's Wild at Heart to Alexander Payne's Election to her career-defining turn in Big Little Lies. But then came the personal storms. Laura's highly publicized relationship with Ellen DeGeneres in the late 1990s came at a real professional cost. She has spoken openly about how, after coming out publicly alongside Ellen, she was essentially frozen out of Hollywood for nearly a year. Doors closed, phones stopped ringing, and yet she didn't flinch. She was later married to musician Ben Harper from 2005 to 2013, with whom she has 2 children Ellery, and Jaya. But then her career hit a second peak that most actors only dream about. She won a 2019 Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress for Marriage Story, 30 years into her career, and in Jurassic World Dominion in 2022, she pulled on those khaki shirts one more time, reuniting with Neil and Goldblum in a moment that made an entire generation cry in the best possible way. Laura Dern is proof that resilience, talent, and refusing to shrink will always win in the end. Let's talk about the man who made chaos theory feel like the coolest subject on Earth. Jeff Goldblum was 40 years old when he played Dr. Ian Malcolm, leather-clad, philosophically unpredictable, and somehow impossibly charming, while explaining why the entire park was doomed. That half-unbuttoned shirt scene? Still iconic, still being talked about in 2026. But here's what's fascinating about Jeff Goldblum. He never really had a career slump. While many of his contemporaries faded after the 1990s, Goldblum just kept reinventing himself, quietly, confidently, on his own terms. He returned for The Lost World, Jurassic Park in 1997, then largely stepped back from blockbusters, appearing in indie films, quirky supporting roles, and building a reputation as Hollywood's most intellectually entertaining dinner guest. But then something unexpected happened around 2017. Jeff Goldblum became a meme. And instead of cringing, he leaned all the way in. A viral image from Jurassic Park turned into a life-size cardboard cutout sold worldwide. He released a jazz album, yes, a jazz album, called The Capitol Studios Sessions in 2018. It charted in the UK. Then came Thor, Ragnarok, Wes Anderson films, and a Disney Plus docuseries, The World, according to Jeff Goldblum, where he explored everyday topics with that unmistakable wide-eyed wonder. Off-screen, he married dancer and actress Emily Livingston in 2014. They have 2 sons together, Charlie and River. He is, as of 2026, 73 years old, and somehow more relevant than ever. Jeff Goldblum's story proves that being completely, unapologetically yourself is always the most interesting career strategy. And then there was the man who built the park. Richard Attenborough was 69 years old when he played John Hammond, the wide-eyed, cane-wielding dreamer who unleashed dinosaurs on the world with nothing but good intentions and a flea circus story. He was perfect in that role, because Richard Attenborough himself was a dreamer of the grandest kind. But here's what younger fans might not realize. By the time Jurassic Park came out in 1993, Attenborough was already one of the most celebrated figures in the history of British cinema, not just as an actor, but as a director. His 1982 epic Gandhi won 8 Academy Awards. 8, including Best Picture and Best Director. It remains one of the most decorated films in Oscar history. But then, after Jurassic Park, something quietly heartbreaking began to unfold. Attenborough suffered a series of devastating personal losses. In the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, he lost his daughter Jane, his granddaughter Lucy, and Jane's mother-in-law, all in a single catastrophic moment. He never fully recovered from that grief. Few people could. He returned briefly for Jurassic Park's sequel, but his health and spirit were visibly diminished in his later years. Richard Attenborough passed away on August 24, 2014, at the age of 90. The tributes that poured in from across the film world were immediate and overwhelming. Spielberg called him irreplaceable. He was right. Richard Attenborough's legacy is a reminder that behind every great performance is a life fully, courageously lived. You know his face the moment you see it. Wayne Knight was 37 years old when he played Dennis Nedry, the sweaty, scheming, surprisingly sympathetic computer programmer who brought the whole park crashing down for a can of shaving cream full of dinosaur embryos. Dennis Nedry became one of the film's most unforgettable characters. He was brilliant in that role. Funny, conniving, and weirdly lovable, right up until the Dilophosaurus made its feelings very clear. But here is something most people do not know about Wayne Knight. He was already a familiar face before Jurassic Park. He had appeared in Seinfeld as the gloriously insufferable Newman, a role he would continue playing all the way through the show's legendary run until 1998. Newman and Nedry in the same decade, not bad for a guy who almost pursued a career in theater instead of television. But then came a scare that stopped fans cold. In 2014, rumors spread rapidly across the internet that Wayne Knight had died in a car accident. The story went massively viral. It was completely false. Knight himself took to Twitter to confirm he was very much alive, and he did so with considerable humor about the whole situation. As of 2026, Wayne Knight is 68 years old, still acting, still recognizable, still beloved. Some legacies are built one iconic villain at a time. Samuel L. Jackson's career trajectory after Jurassic Park is nothing short of extraordinary. Jackson was 44 years old when he played Ray Arnold, the calm, cigarette-holding systems engineer whose arm became one of the most memorable shock moments in the entire film. But here's the thing about that role. It was a relatively small part, a supporting character, a few scenes and a famous one-liner. And yet Samuel L. Jackson made it completely unforgettable, because that's what Samuel L. Jackson does. What most fans don't realize is that Jurassic Park came at a pivotal moment in his career. Just 1 year earlier, he'd appeared in Quentin Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs. And 1 year later, Pulp Fiction would change everything. From that moment on, Jackson became one of the most consistently working actors in Hollywood history. He holds the Guinness World Record for highest-grossing actor of all time, with his films collectively earning over $27 billion worldwide. $27 billion. Off-screen, he has been married to actress LaTanya Richardson since 1980, over 45 years together. In Hollywood, that alone deserves a standing ovation. As of 2026, Samuel L. Jackson is 77 years old and showing absolutely no signs of slowing down. Truly one of a kind. Here's one that might genuinely surprise you. Joseph Mazzello was just 9 years old when he played Tim Murphy, the dinosaur-obsessed grandson of John Hammond, who got electrocuted, nearly eaten, and somehow still managed to reboot the park's computer system. Relatable kid energy, honestly. But here's what most people don't realize about young Joseph. He was everywhere in the 1990s. Radio Flyer, Jurassic Park, The River Wild. Richard Attenborough cast him again in Shadowlands alongside Anthony Hopkins, and then Spielberg himself cast him again in Radio Flyer. Two of the biggest directors in Hollywood kept calling the same kid back. That tells you everything. But then came the quieter years. Like many child stars, Mazzello navigated the difficult transition from adorable kid to working adult actor, a road that has derailed far more careers than it has saved. But then, 2018 changed everything. Joseph Mazzello was cast as John Deacon, the bassist of Queen, in Bohemian Rhapsody. The film earned over $900 million worldwide, and Mazzello delivered a performance that reminded Hollywood exactly what he was capable of. As of 2026, he is 33 years old, quietly building one of the most interesting careers of his generation. The kid who survived Jurassic Park turned out just fine. She hacked the system at 14 years old and saved everyone on the island. But what Ariana Richards did next, almost nobody saw coming. Richards was 14 years old when she played Lex Murphy, the whip-smart, eunuch-savvy granddaughter of John Hammond, who delivered one of the most passionately debated lines in movie history. "It's a eunuch system. I know this." Audiences laughed, but Lex saved the day, and Ariana Richards saved that scene. But then, almost as suddenly as she appeared, she stepped back from Hollywood entirely. Not because of scandal, not because of failure, but because she had another calling entirely. Ariana Richards is a professional painter, a genuinely accomplished one. Her realistic oil paintings have been exhibited in galleries across the United States, and she has spoken passionately about how art, not acting, was always her truest love. But then came one beautiful full-circle moment. In Jurassic World in 2015, Richards made a brief but deeply emotional cameo, appearing in a single news broadcast scene that sent longtime fans into a frenzy of nostalgia. As of 2026, Ariana Richards is 46 years old, living quietly, painting boldly, completely at peace with the path she chose. Her story is a gorgeous reminder that walking away from the spotlight can be its own kind of masterpiece. Here is the cast member whose story across this entire franchise might surprise you the most. B.D. Wong was 32 years old when he played Dr. Henry Wu in the original Jurassic Park, the quietly brilliant geneticist who, in just a handful of scenes, planted the seeds for everything that followed. But here is the remarkable thing. In the original film, Dr. Wu was almost a throwaway character. A few scenes, a couple of explanations about frog DNA, and then gone. But the writers of Jurassic World made a decision that changed everything. They brought Dr. Henry Wu back in 2015 and transformed him into the franchise's most compelling villain. There were 22 years between appearances, same actor, completely different energy. B.D. Wong became the quiet backbone of the entire Jurassic World trilogy, appearing in every single installment through Dominion in 2022. But his personal story is just as powerful. In 2003, B.D. Wong came out publicly as gay and later wrote a deeply moving memoir about his son's premature birth, the loss of the baby's twin, and his journey through surrogacy and parenthood. His book, Following the Ninth, changed conversations around LGBTQ+ parenthood in America. As of 2026, B.D. Wong is 63 years old, still acting, still evolving, still the most underrated member of this entire cast. His story proves that sometimes the most interesting character arc happens off-screen.